Welcome shareholders and investors to the first Askari Metals webinar. We're going to be doing a series of these webinars, and the purpose of these is to provide shareholders and investors with an update on our exploration activities, both across Askari's Namibian portfolio, as well as our Australian lithium and copper gold assets. So the first part of the presentation, I just wanted to spend some time giving you an update in respect of our exploration activities in Namibia and what our activities to date have identified. So far the company has drilled just over 170 drill holes, just shy of 10,000 metres of RC drilling across 3 phases. We take pride, of course, in our delivery and sort of our aggressive approach to exploration, and what we know so far from the work that's been done is that we've got a number of high-grade lithium targets that have been generated from the surface mineralisation work that's been done. And what we've identified through the RC drilling to date is that the mineralisation extends to some of the pegmatites at depth as well. The plans for Askari in Namibia is to continue to capitalise on what we view as being a heavily underexplored region. The Uis pegmatite belt, it's known for its spodumene enrichment, given that you've got the Uis mine operating within 2.5 kilometres to the north of us, as well as Andrada's spodumene hill deposit, where they've recently announced some very attractive assay results from a diamond drilling campaign that they completed as well. What we've identified on 7345 in particular, as well as at 8535, and a lot of this information has been generated just recently from the work that's been done by EarthLab on the surface mapping, looking at the mineralisation of the outcrops, is that we've got a highly anomalous zone that trends across from the Spodumene Hill B1C1 area of Andrada mining into the southeastern extent of 7345 along the same trend as the Uis mine, and then it also extends to the south on our 8535 licence. The company is currently finalising its plans for its next phase of drilling. It's going to be a combination of RC as well as diamond drilling, and it's going to focus mostly on this anomalous zone. The reason for our sort of excitement in respect of our exploration activities in Namibia really are sort of down to just a strategic location of the project area. Knowing that we've got numerous points of information and reference of not just high-grade lithium mineralisation, but high-grade tin, tantalum, as well as rubidium in our pegmatites, gives us great confidence that we're exploring in the right neighbourhood and certainly the right area as far as our project tenure is concerned. In addition to the information and the activities that we've already completed at the Uis mine, you would have seen an announcement made this morning on the ASX platform as well. And what that tends to highlight is really what I was saying earlier in respect of the anomalous zone. We've identified now not just with lithium rock assays from outcropping pegmatites, but also other trace element ratios as well, which has really helped us to narrow down and define sort of where our highest priority interest areas are. So what we're saying with the announcement as well is that with a combination of the surface mineralisation mapping work, the first phase of RC drilling that was completed at 7345, combining that with geophysical information that we've attained just recently, has really given us like a much more improved outlook in terms of the significant potential of the Uis mine and the Uis project. We've also spent considerable time now building our team in Namibia, and I think that's a really important point to focus on, because what it means for us as a company is that our approach is far more measured, far more systematic, and we're also much more active to what's actually happening in the field in real time. What that means is that we've brought on Cliff Fitzhenry. He's come in as our Chief Exploration and Project Manager for Africa. We've also recently appointed another geologist, Lobsha Pepler, who is quite an extraordinary mineralogist and geologist as well. So his focus for the project is to really assist Cliff in terms of where the areas are that need to be focused and what the strategic plans are for exploration. And we've also just recently appointed a very experienced geophysicist, and he's really been tasked with the responsibility of just looking at the historic magnetic data, as well as acquiring more granular information from a geophysical perspective. And that highlights a really important point for Askari in Namibia, because a lot of the area that we're looking at, whilst we've got significant outcropping pegmatites, I mean, we've got more than 300 outcropping pegmatites that are very spodumene rich in areas. Some of the extensions to these pegmatites happen to be under concealed cover. Now, what we can see from the magnetic information, the magnetic data that's been put into the ASX release this morning, is that those extensions of the pegmatites tend to sort of go into areas that follow a very strong magnetic feature. And that's going to be the focus of our next stage of exploration in Namibia at Uis as well. So I just wanted to touch on as well our focus as a company and sort of where we look to position ourselves. Clearly, we're making some significant investments into the lithium sector, and we specifically have invested considerable time and resources into our exploration activities in Namibia. Key reasons for this is that, and one of the things that I mentioned earlier, is just the strategic location of our Uis Lithium Project, being that it is along strike of the Andrada mine, the Uis tin mine, that it is within the same mineralisation horizon as the Spodumene Hill deposit of Andrada as well. It means that we're in a very well understood, very heavily mineralised zone. That Uis pegmatite belt has seen some historical exploration, but as far as lithium exploration is concerned, it's still seen as very heavily underexplored. Now, that obviously presents a significant opportunity for us as a company. And of course, we're not just talking about our 2 existing licenses, we're also talking about an expansion of our footprint in the Uis pegmatite belt. You would have seen the acquisition of EPL 7626. We look at that as being an extension of that K cluster of pegmatites that extends from the Uis mine license of Andrada. But there's also a number of other licenses in the same area that we're looking at going through a due diligence phase at the moment as well. We'll hopefully sort of be able to give shareholders and investors another update as we continue to grow our portfolio in Namibia, as well as we continue to finalise some of the due diligence work that is ongoing in the field at the moment as well. We chose to invest in Namibia not only because strategic its location, but also the infrastructure that exists. So the Uis mine and our Uis project is serviced by an all-weather tarred road, which takes you all the way through from our project area out to the Walvis Bay Deepwater Port, approximately 230 kilometres away. Now, the Walvis Bay Port gives us significant opportunities for different end-user markets as well. So, albeit that the Chinese market seems to be the strongest and most dominant from a lithium concentrate and spodumene concentrate perspective, operating out of Namibia means that we can obviously then ship to the European countries as well as into North America. So not only do we have the ability to ship and concentrate our product in Namibia and beneficiate for downstream applications, we're also able to differentiate ourselves by being able to export to different markets. So we're not necessarily having to be this kind of price taker company. One of the other strategic initiatives that the company's rolled out and implemented is our relationship with Huayou Cobalt. Now, that's a really important one for us, because not only does it validate sort of what we are doing as a company, not just within our Namibian exploration, but also our Australian exploration endeavours on as far as our lithium assets are concerned. It also signals to the market that we've got the ability to partner up with someone that is not only very well equipped financially, but also has significant understanding of the downstream lithium markets. So that for us has been a really important strategic partnership. Huayou has demonstrated quite a strong willingness to continue to invest and support the company, but it's more than just a financial transaction for us. It's more of a case that Huayou has also demonstrated their ability to really give some strong technical input into sort of where we're looking to explore and how we're looking to capitalise as we expand our strategic footprint at the Uis Belt. So that's something that shareholders need to really be understanding, that the relationship relationship with Huayou continues to evolve and develop, and it's developing for the betterment and the benefit of the company. Changing focus ever so slightly onto our Australian assets, and to give shareholders just an update in terms of what our plan is there. Particularly in light of the fact that we've previously mentioned a structured spin-out for those non-lithium projects. Now, you would have seen some weeks ago the company made an announcement just in relation to an exploration update that's been sort of happening with our Aussie assets. We've done significant amounts of work both on our Murners Hill Lithium Project as well as our Hillside Lithium Project in Western Australia, as well as at the Red Peak Rare Earths Project in the Gascoyne region. So that work that's been ongoing, and we're still awaiting the assay results, but the work that's been ongoing has really just been to position those assets to demonstrate to the market that yes, we have got quite a significant portfolio in the Eastern Pilbara, and the assets that we've got are very prospective, they're highly prospective. The work that we're doing at Red Peak, given our location, the Gascoyne, next door to the Mount Clair Rare Earths deposit, that area has historically not seen a lot of exploration work until recent periods. We've just completed an auger sampling campaign, as well as a hand soil sampling program as well. Those results will be brought to market when they're available, but the idea behind our exploration efforts in Australia is just to get those copper, gold and rare earth projects ready for the spin out, to make sure that when they actually do complete the spin out into separate listing, that the new company is able to identify its drill targets immediately and is able to hit the ground running as well. We've also been getting a lot of inbound inquiry on our Australian lithium portfolio, and that's obviously something that is very welcome to our company, given our large strategic and significant land holding there, particularly at Yarrie. So the company's currently got a number of parties that are in the data room, which we're working towards giving them further information, further access, so that they can make an investment decision. But this is something that the company is actively engaging with, so that we can at least start to get some more exploration funding into those projects as well, at the same time as enabling the company then to obviously concentrate on not just the spin out, but concentrate on our own exploration activities happening in Namibia. From a timing perspective, the spin out is something that we're looking to take some shape towards the third quarter of this year. What that'll mean for us is that shareholders will get a better understanding for the portfolio of assets. I've mentioned already that it's going to include our copper, our gold, as well as our rare earths projects in Barrow Creek and at Red Peak, as well as getting a better understanding for what's happening from a timing perspective. So I understand that shareholders have had some questions with respect to the timing of the spin out. It's something that the company is very actively pursuing, and the work that we've been doing in the field just recently is just getting those assets prepared for the spin out, as I've said, and that's something that we will look to give more information to shareholders during this coming quarter. So that concludes the general overview and the presentation and update on the company's activities. So what I'd like to do now is just open the panel up to any shareholders that have got questions with respect to any material that I've touched on now, or if any shareholders would like any specific questions and answers as well. So I'm happy to leave it open to shareholders now. Okay, so thank you. I've got a question here from Tony, who's asked, just in regards to the Askari projects, we've got 10 to 12 projects and we continue to acquire tenements, and what's our rationale for building such an extensive array of projects rather than focusing on one or two lead assets and getting them into production? He mentions that this would be a better use of company cash and therefore be less dilutive for shareholders. So great question, Tony, and thanks very much for joining the webinar as well. What I do want to mention here with respect to sort of our acquisition model as far as the company is concerned is that we do focus very much strategically on assets that we believe add value to our portfolio. I don't consider that we're acquiring projects that are portfolio. In what I'm saying is that if you take, for example, the Eastern Pilbara lithium portfolio, we've got the Merners Hill, Hillside and Yarrie, that consists of one project area. So what I'm also specifying here is that whilst it looks individually, such as the company has got a number of different projects, what we've attempted to do here is build out our substantial portfolio to make it a more attractive offering for our shareholders as well. Where we're going to get to in terms of taking projects into production and focusing our energy and efforts, I did touch on that in the webinar as well. The idea behind what we're doing as a company is divesting or spinning out of those copper gold rare earth projects into a separate company that will enable that company to then focus on those projects with different management teams and different capital requirements as well. The idea then being that Askari focuses on its Namibian lithium assets, as well as the assets that it has here in Australia that are lithium focused. As I mentioned in the webinar as well, we are receiving a lot of inbound inquiry with respect to those Australian lithium projects. And that's something that's really important for us because, as I said, it'll enable us to put some funding into those projects. When you take Yarrie, for example, more than 2,000 square kilometres, it's a significant land package which needs to be systematically and very methodically explored. So that's something that we then definitely would like to bring a partner on to assist us with that as well. I have another question here from Sanil, just in regards to the Yarrie project. It's very consistent with what I was saying, in fact, so it's a good question to ask. The joint venture, will it be with somebody to progress drilling, or will AS2 do it alone? Again, because of the size of the project area, because it does have so much prospectivity, because with respect to the work that we've done already, definitely we've identified at least 11 high priority targets. I was on a conference call last night with the group that's interested in looking to potentially farm into that project. That's something that we would like to sort of engage with them further on as well. It's really important for us because I think in order for us to unlock the project and unlock the value of Yarrie, definitely we'd like to bring a partner on board. But of course, the company's going to have to look at what the merits are of any potential transaction, make sure that it's beneficial to our shareholder group as well. I've got another question just in regards to the time that I've spent in country and on site in Uis and what quality of the infrastructure exists. So definitely, and this is primarily the reason why we invested in Namibia and invested so significantly as well, is the strategic location of those projects. I mean, being that we are along strike of a significant lithium tin tantalum resource, which is in production at the Uis mine, we're also then along strike of Spodumene Hill, which is Andrada, and we've got the tenure that sits in beside us. Now, the idea with respect to the strategic location is that we've got an all-seasons tarred road from the project site all the way down to the deepwater port of Walvis Bay, 230 kilometres. Lots of power infrastructure. The services that we require as a mining company and as an explorer are all within a very tight radius, so we've got access to all the key infrastructure that's required. But Walvis Bay is a really important port for us, and I mentioned this in the webinar as well, in that it enables us to not only ship to Chinese markets, where definitely there's a dominance from a downstream lithium chemical perspective, but you're seeing now a lot of on-stream capacity being built and looking to be mobilised into the European markets as well as into North America. So operating out of Namibia gives us the opportunity to then ship directly out to those three major markets, which obviously then gives us a diversification of our customer base as well, which is, of course, very important for a mining company to make sure that there's no strict concentration on markets. I've got a question here from Claire. She has asked that given all that we've said, sounds like Namibian tenements are definitely economic. What's the likelihood that they're not? Well, I mean, this certainly is exploration. So there's no defined outcome until the resource has been determined and until the financial economics has been wrapped around such a resource. The work that we have done to date, as I said, just shy of 10,000 metres of drilling has been concluded at 8535 and 7345. We're still waiting for the results from the first phase at 8535 and also the second phase at 7345. But certainly what we're seeing from the surface mapping work that's been done, we've definitely got the right geology, the right fractionation of those pegmatites to give the lithium emplacement.
We know what is the potential of the region, given that we've got major projects surrounding us. So there's a high likelihood of being able to delineate a commercial and economic deposit. One of the main things that's going to help us to unlock the real potential here of our project area is just the geophysics. So we are investing a lot of money and a lot of time into geophysics because much of the areas where we can see the extension and the strike extent of the pegmatites on neighbouring properties where it comes across into our project, looking at the geology, studying those geophysics is giving us a great indication as to where it is that we need to focus our time and energy. But having magnetic data, for example, as well as the hyperspectral information that we're collating at the moment, will enable us to explore under those concealed areas and be far more efficient in doing so. I've got a question here from Chris. It says, how do you intend on maintaining shareholder confidence that the new targets will yield significant potential results that you've suggested throughout the company announcements? Well, it is a measured approach, I think, is what's going to help us to unlock the real value here of those Namibian tenements. We've demonstrated that we've got significant pegmatites that outcrop on surface that have the right geochemical signature that yield the right and very high-grade lithium, tin, tantalum results, as well as rubidium. The challenge for us now is to ensure that we continue to drill and explore aggressively. The work that we've done to date has demonstrated that we are in the right region, we are in the right area. But now that we've built a much stronger technical team in country, there has been a need to really assess and compile all the data sets that have been received to date and just make sure that we are effective and efficient in our exploration pursuits. Because of course, shareholders want to see activity, they want to see exploration, they want to see the company developing their projects, which is absolutely what we're doing, and we're doing it in a fast-tracked motion. But we also need to make sure that we are efficient in our exploration endeavours and that what we are doing is delivering tangible value through real exploration results to our shareholders as well. I have another question here, just mentions that Askari has announced several strategic acquisitions and partnerships in the past few months, and what's the commercial rationale behind these decisions? So I'll break that question down into two parts. So first of all, the strategic, sorry, I just got to scroll back to find the right wording. Certainly the strategic partnerships that we've engaged with. So Zhejiang Kenglongda in Australia, on those assets there in particular, they've given us assistance in terms of understanding better their commercial capabilities in the lithium downstream market. We are still actively working with them as well, but what we tend to be seeing is that we need to work towards exploring those project areas in Australia before we can start to bring them in to the camp or to the tent a lot closer. So it's definitely a continuing relationship there. Of stronger significance to Askari is the relationship that we've built with Huayou Cobalt exclusively within Namibia at this present time. What Huayou has demonstrated to us is there's definitely a willingness to assist the company, not just financially, but also assist us from a technical perspective, given that they have significant lithium experience, not just downstream chemical production, but also now with mine commissioning, such as what they've done just recently in Zimbabwe. So they're fundamentally important relationships for the company to continue to develop. Important for us is that we've got a partner that's got a strong balance sheet, and one that can definitely assist us to really take our projects forward much more aggressively than what we would have been able to if we were just relying on traditional equity capital markets. The ability for a company such as Askari to attract the partnership with Huayou in particular, somebody of such high caliber and of such well-standing within the global lithium markets, is definitely a testament to what we've been able to achieve in Namibia in a relatively short space of time. So what it indicates to me in particular, and why I'm still so excited by Namibian assets, is because not only have we been validated by an external party that's done the due diligence, that understands the strategic location, the positioning of where we are and the importance of those projects, but they also believe and they trust the delivery and our approach as a company as well to explore and develop and unlock those projects and those potential. The second part to that question was in relation to strategic acquisitions. It's a really important point to note that that Uis pegmatite belt, it is heavily underexplored from a lithium perspective. It's something that we definitely understand a lot more now, having been there the last 7 months and even prior to that. The team that we've built in country have got significant experience on that Uis belt as well. What it's meaning for us is that we have a laser-like focus in terms of where we go to acquire projects, what value we can add to those projects, and how quickly we can fast track those. Again, it's not about bolting on additional projects as a standalone. This is about building a regional strategic footprint on the Uis belt. Because for those that aren't aware of what's happening with our neighbour in Andrada, they've recently appointed Barclays Bank to run a strategic process for them, very active in terms of their ability to bring in a very large tier 1 partner. What that's going to mean for the region is, of course, a lot more attention is going to be given. And so for Askari, what it means and why the relative importance is of building that strategic footprint, either in the region, is because as more attention is given to that particular district, then it's going to have flow-on benefit and effect onto Askari as well. It's going to be very important for us to maintain a strong focus and a strong energy towards continued exploration, continued acquisitions, and just fast-tracking our exploration endeavours there. I've had another question here, just how many holes will Askari drill by the end of the year? Difficult question to answer. Certainly, one of the things that we want to do is obviously pride ourselves and fast-track drilling and exploration. Having spent considerable time in the last few weeks with Cliff and Lobsher and also Quebus, our geophysicist, I've learned that definitely the measured and methodical approach that they're looking to implement is going to help us to be far more efficient with our drilling. Definitely the idea is that we continue to drill, be efficient and effective in our drilling, and be on track to really continue to unlock the value there. The idea with Askari is still to build things within Namibia to get to the point where we've got the potential for a new discovery in an area that is definitely underexplored. I've got a question here from Shane saying, are we diamond drilling the 112 meter hit, or are we changing direction again? So again, good question, Shane. So the company has set up all the infrastructure for the diamond drilling. We've recently fashioned a core cutting facility, as well as a locking station, core photography station, and so forth. So now the only issue that we've got is that the diamond rig that we identified is currently busy with another project in the Caribbean region. So we are unfortunately waiting until that rig becomes available again before we can get it mobilised to Uis. I'll give shareholders an update sort of as we get more clarity on the timing around that, but certainly though that pegmatite is a high priority target for the company, it is large. We've seen the RC logging that's been completed, so we're definitely very excited by the target, waiting for the assay results to come back through. So we've got great confidence in the final design parameters of the diamond drill campaign, but certainly that is the ambition for the company still to diamond drill that large target. I've got a question here from Adam saying that the investor presentation released recently indicates that Askari will be in a position to deliver an MRE by the end of the calendar year. Is the company still on track to deliver on that commitment? So, I mean, it would be ideal for us to say yes, we'll definitely be in a position to delineate a mineral resource by the end of the calendar year. Definitely the work that we're doing in the field is going to get us and continues to get us, to that stage. So from our perspective, yes, we're still very much on track to delineate a resource at the Uis project. Timing, of course, is one of those factors that is outside of our control, but certainly from our perspective, the focus of the company and the ambition of the company is still to delineate a resource at Uis in as short a possible time. Because of course that then helps us to unlock further discussions, and those discussions then start to morph into discussions regarding construction, commissioning, finance, and we can start to talk about scoping studies, pre-feasibility studies, and really just change the dynamic of the company from exploration to development. I've got another question here that says, if Askari gets Uis into production, what offtake market would we prioritise? Again, a good question. One of the things that I want to mention as well is, of course, that operating within Namibia gives us a great opportunity to actually beneficiate and produce a high quality concentrate, lithium spodumene concentrate in country. The idea would then be, of course, to ship that spodumene concentrate out to one of those 3 markets. Now, given what I mentioned before in terms of diversification of our customer base, given that we can ship to the North American markets, to the Chinese markets, to the European markets, definitely from our perspective as a company, it would make best commercial sense for us to look to strike offtake arrangements within each of those 3 jurisdictions. Clearly, having a European market would give the company possibly the best pricing mechanics, given that Namibia is a German colonized province as well, or region. Definitely the ties within Germany are very strong, and it's been shown significant interest into the region by some large European downstream commercial lithium chemical producers that are bringing capacity on stream. So I definitely see the European market as being a strong market. We have obviously got the relationship with Huayou Cobalt, that's obviously Chinese markets. No offtake has been structured with Huayou at this stage, but certainly from a risk hedging and diversification perspective, we would look to obviously develop that relationship further with them as well. Excuse me. So I've had a question from Sanil. With the spin-off, what happens with AS2 option holders? Will they be given time to convert options into shares to be part of the spin-out company? So definitely. So the way that these things work is that the company will seek guidance from the ASX to enable the company to proceed with the spin-out. An announcement will be made by the company, which will document the record date. The record date will be set sometime in the future. I don't know exactly what that would look like right now, but it'll be set sometime in the future, and that'll enable the option holders to then convert their options into fully paid shares and then participate in the spin-out. Certainly as part of the spin-out, what we would also like to do, not just an in-specie distribution, but also look to give priority entitlement to our Askari shareholders to make sure that they feel that they've had every opportunity to invest in the spin-out company as well. Of course, further details will be contained in announcements, but again, we've got to consult the ASX as a necessary course of action as well. I've had a question here from Shane saying, why did Canaccord buy in at 80 cents? What was the reasoning around that purchase? So thanks very much, Shane. Good question again. And so the fundamental approach with Canaccord was in relation to what, I mean, such as us, and as we share the same sentiment, as such as why you share the same sentiment as well. And it goes back to the Uis region and what is happening there from a regional perspective with Andrada next door running that process. As we view, their region spotlight is going to be shone very strongly. We think there's going to be a lot of consolidation taking place, not just with what Andrada is doing, but also potentially with what Askari can be part of as well. I think that was the fundamental reasoning why Canaccord decided that it was a wise investment for them to acquire options that had an 80-cent strike price. I think certainly once Andrada announces its partner who is being successful in the bid, certainly consolidation activity in that region is going to really strengthen. That's something that we're very much focused on. We're very acutely aware that from a timing perspective, Askari's got has basically to get its house in order in terms of making sure that it's strategically well positioned, making sure that we have identified and executed upon our acquisition plans, because I certainly believe that from a regional perspective, once Andrada has announced that transaction, there will be a lot of consolidation activity, a lot of people looking at what else is operating, what else is available regionally. It's going to be very important for us. But it also highlights why and I mentioned this numerous times now already, but it highlights why we've been so aggressive in Namibia. We liked our first mover advantage in terms of our ability to consolidate smaller holdings and consolidate nice strategic land positions, and more will follow in the future. And it's a kind of a watch this space kind of a situation, but certainly what we believe to be beneficial to us is that a lot of information is going to start to flow from neighbouring projects. A lot more intelligence is going to start to be developed and sort of implemented into the region, but a lot more consolidation is going to really help Askari to be quite a prominent kind of player in that region as well. So I've got a question here saying, has the arrival of the diamond rig been delayed? When can we expect to start drilling? So certainly, unfortunately, the diamond rig has been delayed. It's busy working on a project in the Caribbean region of Namibia. I'm not completely sure of when that diamond rig will become available again. We are looking and talking to a couple of other exploration crews out there as well that could potentially help us to fast track that, but I will make sure that shareholders are kept informed as to when the potential diamond campaign will be commencing. I've got another question here from Claire saying, are you considering that Askari any type of assistance from a partnership with Andrada in the future? I'm not sure in terms of what form it's going to be coming through, but certainly from a strategic perspective, it makes very good sense for the two companies to work closely together. From our perspective, we've built a good relationship with the technical team of Andrada in Uis in the field. I've got a very tight relationship with the guys that are running the plant and exploring the different project areas, including Spodumene Hill, which is in between our 8535 and 7345 licenses. From their perspective, they are very much focused on ensuring that their pilot plant gets up and running and the lithium stream is in production. From our perspective, we're looking to obviously fast track our exploration, delineate the resource, and bring our project online as well. But certainly from a downstream perspective and a beneficiation perspective, I think that consolidation that I mentioned before is something that's going to become a very red hot topic in the not too distant future. Okay, so another question that has been asked here. Namibia, continue to be talked about as a mining-friendly jurisdiction. Can you talk about why in comparison to the rest of Southern Africa? So from a Fraser Institute perspective, Namibia is ranked number 6. I like to describe Namibia as being sort of Africa for beginners, in that it's a very safe region to operate within. There's no political risks, there's no security risks. As far as infrastructure is concerned, it's very much tier 1. It's not a developing country. You don't have the same risk profile or risk matrix as other Southern African jurisdictions do have. Certainly from our perspective in Namibia, there's 2.5 million people live in a country the same size as Western Australia. So from that perspective, definitely you're talking about a sparsely populated region, which again makes mining and exploration simpler because there's no competition for land use and things like that. I would imagine that you're going to see a lot more attention, a lot more focus coming into Namibia from Western countries and Western companies. It hasn't historically seen a lot of lithium exploration. Certainly pockets of Namibia have seen lithium exploration, such as what you're seeing at the Helicon Rubicon mine there in the Caribbean. But outside of that, it's very heavily underexplored. I certainly believe that's going to change considerably as markets look to lock up new sources of lithium for downstream use. So I think you're going to see a lot more information, a lot more attention being given to countries such as Namibia that are viewed as very safe, very stable, mining-friendly jurisdictions. I've got a question here from Adam saying, do you still intend to drill the 112-metre wide pegmatite identified previously as a priority, and when will the diamond rig arrive on site? So definitely that pegmatite is a high priority for the company. We do still intend to drill that with a diamond because we're very interested to test underneath that water aquifer to see what is going on with the fresh unoxidized material. I think it's going to be really important for us to review the results from the RC holes initially to maintain sort of the best outlook in terms of the design parameters of the diamond campaign. I'd like to imagine that the diamond rig is hopefully not too far away, but again, as I said, I can't give sort of concrete timing right now, but shareholders will be kept informed of the timing as it develops. Certainly, it's still a high priority focus for us as a company, but it will happen in tandem with exploration that is going on in that corridor that we've identified from the geophysics and from the rock and surface mineralization work as well. So I'd like to imagine that the company is not just going to focus on a single stream of exploration, but we'll have multiple streams of exploration going at the same time, just to maintain that momentum and the aggressive approach as we've kind of lived and breathed on in the last 12 months. I've got a question here. Does the company need to look at another capital raise, or is the company in a cash positive position? So, I mean, of course, as an exploration company, you are at the merit of the capital markets, the equity capital markets. So certainly the company will need to raise further capital at some point in time. As I mentioned before, we are looking at non-dilutive methods of bringing funding into the company, and that's been looked at with joint ventures to look at bringing in streams of exploration funding in to the other projects, which will then free up capital to deploy into our own exploration pursuits. But also considering the relationship with Huayou Cobalt, considering the number of inbound inquiries we've been receiving as well, not just into Namibia, but also into Australia, we believe that there's going to be a great opportunity for the company to unlock further capital from those relationships as well. Okay, so I'm just looking through the balance of the questions, and sorry for the slight pause, but unless there's any other questions coming through, the other thing that I wanted to mention, and shareholders would have seen with the announcement that went out last week about the investor meetings in Sydney, Melbourne next week, I sort of extend the welcome to all shareholders to come and attend the venue in Sydney and/or Melbourne, whichever is your preference, and come and have a chat with me personally. I'll be doing a presentation, much the same format as we've done today, Q&A session afterwards. But then also I'll open up the floor just to have an informal chat over a drink and just have a chat about what else is going on. It doesn't have to be Askari, can be general as well. We've also posted in the handout section to the webinar the investor fact sheet, sorry. So if you are interested in having a look at the fact sheet and following just a summary of our information, please, by all means, have a look through that as well. And yeah, thanks also very much for your attendance today, and I welcome you to participate in further webinars in the future.